they're going to be awful.
I mean, they're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. I mean, so yeah, I mean, it's just from straight football. Now, if they have some master plan to go get one of these quarterbacks.
They don't have that. They don't have
that. Hello and welcome to episode 369 of the official EstablishedRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan, as always joined by Evan Silva. The 2022 NFL draft is in the books. We already talked AFC. Today we'll be talking NFC. Evan, how's it going?
It's going well. Let's do this.
Before we get into it today, this show is indeed brought to you by EstablishedTheRun.com/offers. Yes, EstablishedTheRun.com/offers is where you need to go if you're in a legal betting state to sign up for books, because you will get the best offers and you'll give yourself more access to picking off the best lines. Out EstablishedTheRun.com/offers. Oh, I know I'm interrupting the video. Wah. But if you're enjoying this video and want to see more fantasy football and DFS content like it, please just take 2 seconds, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button. It really does go a long way for us, and we'd appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and now back to the show. All right, Evan, we talked AFC. Now we need to talk NFC. Let's get it started here with the Arizona Cardinals. Did not have a first round pick because they gave it up for Marquise Brown. And this is a move that can be debated in itself. Should we be giving up a first round pick for a 180-pound wide receiver who has had drop issues, et cetera, et cetera? He's still very young. I certainly didn't hate it. I thought it was just kind of fine. What do you think of the Marquise Brown trade? Anything else on the Cardinals?
Well, I think it was a lot to give up. They did get back a third rounder, but to give up a first rounder for, as you say, a very undersized receiver who they're going to have to pay. They're going to have to give Marquise Brown a big contract.
Definitely.
I mean, that's been the trend, and his contract's going to be coming up soon. So
yeah, he's heading to his fourth year, and he's under contract reasonably. His fifth-year option is reasonable too, but who knows if he'll even be willing to play under that. I could see him saying he wants a new deal.
Yeah. Exactly. But I do understand it from the standpoint that it was a bit of an olive branch to Kyler Murray, who has expressed dissatisfaction in Arizona. And they played together for 2 years at Oklahoma. We got the shower narrative going. And it also makes sense from the standpoint that, their top two really pass catchers, DeAndre Hopkins, he started to look like he was on the back nine last year. And Zach Ertz is definitely on the back nine. Then they came back and they used in the second round pick, the motherfucking Mackey Award winner, Trey McBride. And I think that, the draft capital that they spent on him suggests that they believe he can be an every down tight end. He caught 90 passes last year. He ran 4.56. He's a fine blocker. So I think that they viewed these as necessary moves from a number of different angles. Came back third round. They lost Chandler Jones to the Raiders, back-to-back edge pass rusher picks, and then a bunch of 6th and 7th round dart throws. I thought it was – I think it makes sense if you view it, with some nuance.
Yeah. I mean, they're very small. I mean, Rondale and Marquise Brown are very, very small. They did not really get any help for James Conner, who's obviously had a lot of injury history. But, man, it looks to me like they're teeing up James Conner for a massive workload, which I don't know if James Conner can sustain or not. But if he can, he's going to have a great year.
Oh, yeah.
Trey McBride. Shout out to Trey McBride, man. Shout out to the Mackey Award winner. Agreed. Definitely like Trey McBride. And, yeah, they want to get Kyler weapons. They did that. I will see how it goes. Falcons did a wide receiver at 8 overall in big slot. Drake London. They went back, added, shout out Penn State. Edge rusher, and then they also get Desmond Ridder in round 3. I mean, they should be taking stabs on quarterbacks also, given their situation with Marcus Mariota as the starter. What did you think of the Falcons draft?
Yeah, it's a little bit all over the place, but I mean, I think that there were some good things. Arnold Ebiketie, who they got out of Penn State, edge rusher, I thought he had a chance to go late first round. They got him at 38. They made Drake London the number 1 receiver drafted here at number 8 overall. We talked about him with Mike Renner, kind of a Michael Thomas / Allen Robinson style of player who's probably going to end up in the slot. They're going to have the twin towers on the interior, and these guys can move around in Drake London and Kyle Pitts.
Mm-hmm.
They're like trying to build like a basketball team almost. Drake London literally is a basketball player. He played at USC early in his career before fully committing to football. It was interesting that Desmond Ridder's most common comparison before the draft was to Marcus Mariota, who of course is the Falcons' projected Week 1 starter. But if Mariota struggles or he gets hurt, which he's been known to do, and they have to go to Desmond Ridder, they don't have to change the offense for Desmond Ridder. They're similar stylistically. Desmond Ridder has his issues, accuracy among them. But I think that's one of the reasons that they felt comfortable they have these big catch radius wide receiver and tight end. Tyler Algier got a little bump today, BYU running back drafted by the Falcons in the 5th round when the Falcons cut Mike Davis.
Yeah. I mean, the running back room is definitely wide open for Algier, but I mean, 5th round draft capital, 151st. Overall, Cordero Patterson is there. Damian Williams is there. Quadric Ollison, I believe, is still there. So they have some bodies, but, it's a path for Algier. But, man, 5th round draft capital is not great.
Yeah. He's a big back, though, and he caught passes in college, and that's something that you like to see. Big backs that can catch the ball.
For sure. Panthers, they had a big hole at quarterback. They had a big hole at offensive line. They choose to go offensive line at number 6 overall with Ike Ekwonu, and then they take Matt Corral out of Ole Miss in the 3rd round. What did you think of the Panthers deal?
Well, they were shorthanded because they traded a ton of picks here for Sam Darnold and C.J. Henderson and Daryl Johnson, and they didn't really get much out of those guys. Sam Darnold is just he's lost, man. I mean, he needs to go off in a private island for a few years and regather his thoughts and maybe come back. It's not like he doesn't have talent. He's just, when things start going downhill, like he just falls right off the cliff and it's over. I really like the Matt Corral pick. I thought that there were some similarities, at least stylistically, between him and Tony Romo. He's a really good athlete, kind of has that like sidearm slingshot throwing style. He's kind of small, 6 foot, but athletic. And he had a really good season last year under Lane Kiffin. And I thought that he was very much worth it at number 94. Obviously, they were unable to trade out, and they wound up taking Ike Ekwonu. Some people in the league thought that he needs to play guard early in his career, but they're going to start him right away at left tackle. They have to. They had one of the worst offensive lines in the league. I thought one really interesting player that they picked late in the 6th round, Virginia Tech edge Amare Barno. This dude is an edge pass rusher who ran 4.36 at the combine, so definitely worth a shot in the 6th round.
Breaking news into the show here. We're recording this Tuesday around 4 p.m. Eastern time, and Evan, DeAndre Hopkins has been suspended for 6 games. 6-game suspension for DeAndre Hopkins. Not sure why yet, but 6-game suspension for DeAndre Hopkins. So what we said about Marquise Brown, obviously they're going to need him very, very, very much now, certainly in those first 6 games. Maybe that explains a little bit more about the Marquise Brown trade.
Yeah, right. I guess it's going to be Marquise Brown, Rondale Moore, and A.J. Green for
so small.
Yeah.
I mean, so small. My God. I mean, Jesus. Okay. We'll talk more about that when we regroup our thoughts on the DeAndre Hopkins suspension. Chicago Bears did not have a 1st-round pick. They take Kyler Gordon, the cornerback out of Washington. At 39th overall, take another defensive back, Jaquan Brisker, out of shout-out Penn State. And then the pick that the analytics bros absolutely hated in the 3rd round, they're like, well, we'll get some help for Justin Fields, but they take this dude, Velus Jones, who's allegedly like 35 years old, and everybody hates it. So what do you think what the Bears did?
Yeah, and, as we talked about on the AFC podcast, they really didn't get very much for Khalil Mack, who was their best player on defense. They're not building to help Justin Fields succeed.
Yeah.
They still need like 2 starting offensive linemen. It is interesting to note that Brandon Thornton liked some of their late round stabs at offensive linemen. You like to see that, but I mean, there's still, a guy out of Southern Utah. a guy out of Southern. I mean, are these guys going to, Zachary Thomas out of San Diego State, are these guys going to be able to play in year one, these day three kind of smaller school guys or played against weaker competition? Like, that's a real long shot. They needed at least 2 starting offensive linemen, and I don't know that they got a single one. I understand, the value was really good on Kyler Gordon, and that was a need. They have a ton of needs. Like, they just have so many needs, but it doesn't seem like they're intent on building the team to see Justin Fields succeed. I mean, that's not indicated by any of their moves in free agency or the draft. And there has been some speculation that the new regime, this is the risk that you run when you change regimes, that maybe these guys don't believe in Justin Fields as much as the previous regime did.
Mm-hmm.
And so, why would they, they didn't draft this guy and they don't necessarily believe in him long-term. Why would they pour all their resources into going in on Justin Fields? Because that's not their guy. I mean, it seems it's unfair, and it probably is unfair, but it's not far-fetched that this regime isn't going all in on Justin Fields because maybe they don't believe in him. He's inherited from the previous regime.
Awful offensive line and starting wide receivers right now, to me, look like Darnell Mooney and then one of Pringle and Velus Jones. I mean, that's pretty weak. I mean, Byron Pringle couldn't succeed with Patrick Mahomes. Right. Velus Jones, I don't know a ton about, but the analytics bros seem to hate him. And then I like Darnell Mooney. I'm not sure he's a true number 1 wide receiver, though he did have a very, very good year last year. Mm-hmm. Cowboys. What was once a strength needs to be reinforced, and I think the Cowboys are aware of that. They go 24th overall, Tulsa, tackle Tyler Smith. I did want to note that this Jalen Tolbert thing, South Alabama wide receiver, I mean, they need wide receiver help, and they very clearly identified this dude as someone they like. That Dak Prescott talked to him during the pre-draft process. So, they're not out there winging it. They certainly like Jalen Tolbert. What do you think out of the Cowboys draft?
I dinged him for trading away Amari Cooper, mm-hmm. and then their draft was, just not real impressive. I gave him a C-. Tyler Smith led the nation in penalties last year. The Cowboys were one of the most flagged teams. I think they were the most flagged team in the NFL last year. They did need offensive line help. I mean, Zach Martin, Tyron Smith. These guys are getting up there in age. Tyron Smith can't stay healthy, and then they lost La'el Collins, mm-hmm. So I get it, but the fan base was not happy in Dallas. Sam Williams was a guy that it was known that they really liked him. Edge rusher out of Ole Miss. I mean, Brian Broaddus literally tweeted that they were going to take Sam Williams in the second round. It's Brian Broaddus is literally one of the most valuable follows on Twitter because I mean he just has a gateway to the front office.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I don't know. We'll have to see on Jalen Tolbert. He should get a ton of playing time in the preseason, and then a bunch of day 3 guys.
Yeah, I mean, one thing about this stuff with going on with the Cowboys is I'm sure they wanted to keep Amari Cooper, they want to keep La'el Collins. When you give Ezekiel Elliott $90 million, it's hard to build the rest of your team, and that's I feel bad for running backs. If I had a kid who was really good at football, there's no way I would let him play running back. No way. Play any other position. So I'm not trying to kill Ezekiel Elliott as a dude or a player. It's just you can't build a team like that and expect to retain guys that you need like Amari Cooper and La'el Collins. Let's go to Lions. So Lions had, I guess, the dream fall into their lap. Although we had some bets on other players to go second, and I had some bets on really crazy odds on Aiden Hutchinson to go 3rd, 4th, and 5th, 75 to 1, 100 to 1, crazy numbers on Aiden to go to slip even further. He doesn't. Mm-hmm. He stays home. I believe he grew up in Michigan, went to school in Michigan, and now he will play football. The Detroit Lions, they get him at 2, and then at 12, they take a flyer, and not even a flyer, ACL tears these days. It would shock me if Jameson Williams is not back and 100% within 8, 9, 10 months. And if that's the case, a lot of people said Jameson Williams was the clear-cut best wide receiver in this class. So to get Hutchinson and Jameson Williams 1, 2 in the top 12 picks, I think that's pretty strong. What do you think out of the Lions?
I loved it. I thought their draft last year was a little bit overrated. I mean, people were super, super high on it, but it was still a good draft. And I gave them an A-. I think I only gave out 2 A's and this was one of them. Aiden Hutchinson falls right into your lap. You let the stupid Jaguars take the projection-based, athletic measurables guy. You get the guy with all the production and plenty good measurables. He has shorter arms. Like, he's going to be fine. He's a really, really good athlete. Jameson Williams was, like, I would say by the end of the process, by far my favorite receiver in this draft. I think he's the one out of all the guys that has a chance to be the biggest difference maker and a true number one. He's going to be so much fun to watch playing inside the dome in Detroit. I love that pick. And then Josh Pascal addresses their outside pass rusher. I think that he was a steal out of Kentucky in the second round. And then Kirby Joseph out of Illinois, stud safety. I like pretty much everything that they did here.
If you zoom out on the Lions, man, I know everybody hates Jared Goff, and I don't like Jared Goff either. When Jared Goff, like, he's capable of 350 yards and 3 touchdowns in a game. They have DeAndre Swift, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Chark, Jameson Williams, and TJ Hawkinson. I mean, this team is nice, man, when it comes to being able to make explosive plays. I would not be writing off the Lions like a team to stack in best ball or any other, like, underrated stuff. And the Amon-Ra St. Brown stuff is going to be polarizing, but I like him. I like Swift. I like Chark. I like Jameson. I like Hawkinson.
They got a good offensive line.
Yeah, I mean.
Hey. Lions to win the NFC North.
What's that price?
The Bears are going to be terrible. Vikings are in a state of transition. Aaron Rodgers is throwing to a bunch of dust.
What's that price?
I took it last night. I can't remember. It was like 10 to 1, 12 to 1, maybe. I don't know. What's it on Canby?
Oh, good. I have DK up. Yeah, you got 12 to 1 on DK right now. That's a really long price for the division. Packers are minus 175 to win that division. They're
going to play hard. I mean, I like Dan Campbell. I like him. And Brad Holmes is doing analytical things. They had one of the what's his name? The Math Bomb on Twitter. He does the RAS scores. Yeah. And the Lions had one of the most Kent Platt.
Yep.
Yeah. They had one of the most athletic draft classes in the league. I mean, I think they're doing things right in Detroit.
Yeah. I know Jared Goff isn't good, but man, like, he's capable at least. Like, some of these quarterbacks who suck, they never throw for 350 and 3 touchdowns in their entire life.
The Super Bowl,
Yeah, I mean, Jared Goff can do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Packers staying in the division here. So the bets that we ended up getting the most on, I had like so many different Quay Walker bets by the end of it. He screamed up the process. Packers take him, and they take Devontae Wyatt in the first round. Everybody's freaking out. They didn't take a wide receiver. They do take a wide receiver at 34th overall, which, is borderline first round. Fine. Maybe I'm too skeptical on Christian Watson, but man, to go from North Dakota State catching, 100 balls in 50 games or whatever it was, and now to ask to earn Aaron Rodgers' trust at the NFL level as a rookie, right. I feel like it's not going to work out that well, but maybe I'll be wrong. What do you think out of what the Packers did?
Yeah, it seemed forced, and they gave up numbers 53 and 59. That is a sweet spot in this draft to go get Christian Watson at number 34. And God, it's a lot to pay. I mean, in a draft like this where day 3 wasn't very good, and that middle ground right there, picks 25 through 60, like that's where you wanted to be. And then a big, tall receiver. And we had Mike Renner on, and his comparison was Marquez Valdez-Scantling, his scouting report on Christian Watson, the exact same scouting report on Marquez Valdez-Scantling. That's an inconsistent role player who leaves yards on the field, can work for you, down the sideline, but is going to be real limited and absolutely could struggle to earn the trust of Aaron Rodgers. Big receivers that play small scare me. And I think that Aaron Rodgers could be a guy that Aaron Rodgers get frustrated with. He also can end up being the number 1 receiver for Aaron Rodgers. Mm-hmm. And so his projection in terms of dynasty is going to be all over the place, because he has legit really big upside. And then look, they started the draft with 2 dudes from that all-time Georgia defense. It's hard to quibble with that.
Oh, and I was going to say, I think the Packers are building like one of the NFL's best defenses. Like, to me, that's if the Packers win this year, it's going to be because of their defense. I don't think the offense is going to be like that explosive at all. Obviously, I think Aaron Rodgers will be efficient even without Devontae Adams, maybe not as efficient. And defense is good though, man. I mean, for sure.
Romeo Dubs, speaking of guys that should play a ton in the preseason. Romeo Dubs caught a ton of balls at Nevada, 4th rounder.
What a name.
Yeah, I know. Great name. But he's going to be a real interesting guy to watch, too.
Rams. Obviously, the Rams hate making draft picks. It's almost like every year it's just an afterthought for them. This year, they did not pick until the 104th overall pick. Anybody stick out for you here on the Rams draft?
Yeah, the Rams just sat back and were making fun of everybody else's draft picks until pick 104. But look, Matthew Stafford and Von Miller's gone now. But Matthew Stafford and Von Miller, they got him to the Super Bowl, a Super Bowl win last year. Those factor into their grade and their draft. They needed another youth injection on the offensive line. Logan Bruss, you rarely go wrong with Wisconsin offensive linemen. They've had success drafting offensive linemen out of Wisconsin as well. Kieran Williams is a guy who tested really poorly before the draft, but man, he's good at football. I mean, he's legit good at football, and the coaches are going to love him. He's going to play special teams. He's going to make the roster, and who knows what can happen at the running back position. Cam Akers didn't look great coming back from the torn Achilles. Of course, he's going to get the first crack, and I mean, he's pretty much locked in, I think. But Kieran Williams is going to make the team.
Minnesota Vikings took safety Lewis Cine at 32nd overall. Evan talked about the trade that they made. They get Andrew Booth and Ed Ingram in the 2nd round. I don't think it's a sexy draft from fantasy purposes, but I think a solid real-life draft. What do you think what the Vikings did?
Yeah, they traded down a bunch. Their new GM, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, a Sashi Brown disciple, or Sashi Brown / Andrew Berry disciple, super smart guy. And how could you not be a smart guy with the last name of Mensah? But he made a huge he traded down, and he made a huge commitment to fixing the pass defense, which really fell off a cliff late in Mike Zimmer's tenure, because he took in the first round, at the end of the first round, Lewis Cine out of Georgia. And then they stole Clemson cornerback Andrew Booth, who fell a little bit in the draft because he had sports hernia surgery before the draft. Brian Asamoah is a linebacker that can cover. In the 4th round, they took a Caleb Evans, a corner out of Mizzou. And then they took an edge in Isizi Otumweo out of Minnesota in the 5th round. Like, he made an obvious commitment to trying to hammer this secondary, fix this secondary. The analytics guys believe that, pass defense, well, it's a fact that pass defense is critical, but they like to build from the back forward, and shoring up that secondary was clearly the theme of this draft.
New Orleans Saints clearly liked Chris Olave a lot. I mean, they gave up a ton to move up to 11th overall for Chris Olave. They also get offensive line help with Trevor Penning at 19th overall. Certainly 2 pretty big needs, I thought, and they pass on quarterback as well in this draft. What do you think what the Saints did? And by the way, the Tyrann Mathieu deal, I believe, is done. 3 years, $33 million to the Saints. Tyrann Mathieu deal is done.
Tweet from Austin Gale of PFF. The Saints essentially traded picks number 98, 101, 120, a 2023 first rounder, and a 2024 second rounder for Chris Olave.
That doesn't even sound right to me, but man,
it doesn't even sound real.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's what they do. I mean, the Saints have been doing this for a while, and they've had success doing it. Now, it still doesn't, I don't like that style of drafting. It's a hubris-based style of drafting.
Yeah.
To think that you can outpick your competition, and that, you can afford to sacrifice all of this draft capital, and that you're going to nail it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Chris Olave is going to be good. I don't think he projects as a true number 1 receiver in the NFL, though. And I think he's a little bit of a reach at number 11.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't give him a good grade. And then they were only left with, they did get Trevor Penning. I think he was a steal. Northern Iowa offensive tackle. I think that he, a grit and toughness dude. And he's going to start right away at left tackle for them. And they needed that after losing Teron Armstead. But then they only had 3 picks after that. The first of them went in the second round, Tennessee cornerback Alante Taylor. I don't, it's just this is not the style of drafting that I prefer.
Oh yeah. I mean, if that Austin Gale tweet is correct, that's completely ludicrous and egregious. I mean, ridiculous. Giants. Kayvon Thibodeau for most of the process, and by most of the process, I mean like going back like a year, 6 months. Kayvon Thibodeau was the favorite to be number 1 overall. Giants end up getting him at number 5 overall, and they address. And I thought Evan Neal, like obviously I know nothing about offensive line, from a prospect perspective, just looked like a flawless prospect did Evan Neal. So I really like what the Giants did. I hated the Wandale Robinson pick. I mean, 5'8", 175, 43rd overall. And Wandale Robinson didn't even test that. He's not even like that fast or athletic. So, I mean, 5'8", 175, it's so hard to be a difference maker in the NFL consistently at that size. Maybe he'll be the outlier, but I don't know. I didn't like that pick, but I did like what they did in the first round. What do you think of the Giants?
I totally agree with your takes here. Also, Jordan Renan, he noted that Wandale Robinson is listed at 5'11" on the Kentucky website. He goes to the combine, somehow shrank 3 inches. Here's the thing, I hated that pick too, but Brian Daboll is going to throw the piss out of the ball. Mm-hmm. And Wandale Robinson, where they took him, number 43 overall, that suggests that he's going to get near-term opportunity. Could he be like their version of like Cole Beasley and Isaiah McKenzie? He has a chance to be a fantasy factor. But I'm with you. I did not like that real-life pick, but I think he's kind of interesting in fantasy, in Dynasty. When Amico and I and Leone were doing our 2-round mock, I think he went like in the middle of the 2nd round.
Yeah. I mean, they have talent. They have Galladay. They have Sterling Shep. They have Tony, who certainly flashed and can play that kind of playmaker role in the slot. I don't know, man. Like, I trust that the new GM and Daboll and everything. I just didn't like the pick. But yeah, I think what it said to me is undoubtedly, despite having Daniel Jones, they're going to play the Bills offense. In other words, spread, and you're going to see games where the Giants throw the ball 70%, 80% of the time. I mean, it's going to be good, the Giants. And like, I know people are tired of me being on Daniel Jones, but to me, he's like the best late round quarterback pick in fantasy right now. Eagles. AJ Brown's 24 years old. And I mean, so you give up the 18th overall pick and 101st overall pick to get a 24-year-old, I mean, legit one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, I think. So I don't normally like trading for veterans, but like AJ Brown's not even a veteran. He's 24 and they had the money. I mean, they gave him $100 million contract. They had the money. They also got Jordan Davis, who I know the analytics guys hate because Jordan Davis is a 2-down defensive tackle, doesn't really play on pass downs, but still dude seems like a difference maker on early downs. What do you think of the AJ Brown and the Eagles draft?
Yeah, there's some projection involved with Jordan Davis because first of all, they were just loaded on the defensive line at Georgia, and they didn't have to play him in passing situations. I think he only played like 30% of the snaps overall, but he's such an incredible athlete, like one of the freakiest athletes on planet Earth, that they are projecting him to become more than that. And, you see his work ethic and his motor and all that. And, and then you see him run at the combine at that size, like, I understand that projection. I think that I think he was a good pick. No team in this draft improved more than the Eagles, I don't think. When you throw in the central focus of the draft is AJ Brown. Mm-hmm. Give up number 18, number 101 for him. I think that that's more than reasonable. You got to pay him, but they can pay him because they got their quarterback on a rookie deal. Cam Jurgens, a lot of people thought that he was the best center in the draft, even better than Tyler Linderbaum. And he's going to be Jason Kelsey's heir apparent. Jason Kelsey kind of talks about retirement every offseason. Mm-hmm. Nakobe Dean, projected as a first-rounder by many, fell in the draft due to medical concerns. But, I mean, that's exactly where you take a shot on him in the 3rd round. Like, you can't let him fall past you. And they're not a team that usually even drafts linebackers, but now they got a chance at a linebacker who can make a difference for them in the middle of the field where we know they get killed relentlessly. Grant Calcaterra, I thought was a really interesting pick out of SMU. Grant Calcaterra can catch the football. They got him in the 6th round. I was really impressed. I'm old enough to remember Eagles fans and media trying to run Howie Roseman out of Philly, and it was because they had gone on a cold streak in the draft. If you understand that the draft is, there's a lot of good fortune or misfortune or luck, bad luck, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of that involved in the draft, and they went on a bad run. I think they had an awesome draft here, and I think the arrow is pointing up on the Eagles, and they're going to also know exactly whether or not Jalen Hurts is the answer this year because of all that they're putting around him. And they have 2 first-round picks next year because they got the Saints first-rounder, so they'll be able to move up in the draft if they need to go get a quarterback. And it's supposed to be an awesome quarterback class next year. They did this right.
Howie is never going to live down taking Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. Like, the people in Philly will never let him forget that the Eagles did that forever. But man, dude has made so many ballsy, difficult to execute trades and moves. Like, gotta give him respect. And like, yeah, Reagor versus Justin Jefferson at the time, I don't know how many people were like up in arms about it. I guess a decent amount of people were, but it's easy to say now.
A decent amount of people, they were looking for a certain type.
Yeah.
And they let that cloud, just that Justin Jefferson, a way better football player than Jalen Reagor, because they were just targeting a certain type of receiver.
Sure. By the way, there was some Eagles plus 350 out there to win the NFC East, which I thought was good. I don't know if it's still there anymore, but yeah, certainly, as Evan said, Eagles improved massively. 49ers, Kyle Shanahan did what they do. He took a running back in the 3rd round, Tyrion Davis-Price out of LSU. They used their first pick on Drake Jackson, did not have a 1st-round pick, I believe, as a result of the Trey Lance trade. What do you think of the 49ers draft?
I think, they got a bunch of players, and, we could talk about them all. It's going to come down to whether Trey Lance hits.
Yeah.
Because they were missing their 1st and their 4th rounder in this draft due to that trade. Tyrion Davis-Price, I think that the fact that they picked him, especially in the 3rd round, which was 2 rounds before he was expected to go, that reflects really poorly on Trey Sermon, who was a disaster last year. Runs like he's got a piano on his back. He ran like a fullback last year. It was bad with Trey Sermon. And then Danny Gray, who they took in the 3rd round at SMU, I think he is going. They envision him the Kyle Shanahan sort of like downfield streaker, Travis Benjamin, Aldrick Robinson, Marquise Goodwin. I think that they envision him as that sort of a player. But yeah, the outcome of this draft is entirely dependent on whether Trey Lance hits.
Yeah, and they have Eli Mitchell, they have Jeff Wilson, they have JaMychal Hasty, they have Trey Sermon. Now they add another running back in the 3rd round. One thing I want to keep my eye and make sure I'm always thinking about is like Kyle Shanahan trading up for someone or reaching for someone in the draft doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything when it comes to obligation to play them. Like they traded up for Trey Sermon last year. Dude couldn't even get on the field in week 1 when they needed it so desperately after Raheem Mostert got hurt. And so there's been a ton of examples of that. Other teams, I think it matters when they trade up for a dude. Kyle Shanahan has no qualms whatsoever about trading up for a dude and then not playing him. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there. Seahawks. So the more I've thought about this Seahawks thing, and I was killing them during the draft for not taking shots on Malik Willis, not taking shots on a quarterback. Maybe the grand plan is just to suck again and then be in position to take one of these quarterbacks. I know nothing, but this quarterback class coming up in 2023 looks like incredibly strong. Like the first mock that Renner did had 4 quarterbacks going in like the top 8 picks or something like that. So maybe the Seahawks grand plan was, hey, we're going to suck again and we're going to get one of these quarterbacks next year. What do you think about that? And what do you think about the Seahawks draft?
Yeah, I know some people are saying that. That does not seem like Pete Carroll style at all. Yeah. And especially considering the dude is like 70.
Yeah.
It's just, I think people are shoehorning that narrative in there. I think they made some good picks in this draft. I thought that Charles Cross wound up being a really nice value at number 9, when I think he had a chance to go as early as number 5 overall. Boye Mafe, I thought he had a chance to go in the 1st round. They got him at number 40, edge out of Minnesota. Abe Lucas was a guy that Daniel Jeremiah was talking up as a potential first round sleeper at one point. They got him in the third round. Washington State offensive tackle. Those dudes tend to pass protect out in the Northwest. The pick to make fun of him for is Kenneth Walker. He's one of the best runners in college football at Michigan State. Questionable receiving acumen. They've already got a bunch of dudes in this backfield, although a bunch of the dudes aren't very good. DJ Dallas, Travis Homer, and then Chris Carson. It sounds like he might be done. Yeah. And then Rashad Penny, they've got on a 1-year deal. So you can make fun of him for taking a running back there, but I thought it was a relatively okay value in the backfield. Although there's a million dudes there right now, like Kenneth Walker is probably going to be the best out of them. But I gave him a terrible grade because I thought they were stupid for trading away Russell Wilson. That's why they had like so many picks.
Right.
And they had extra picks. And I just think when you have a quarterback like Russell Wilson, you do what it takes to make it work with him. And you make sure that player retires as a Seahawk. And I think that kind of shit is actually important. I used to not care about that shit when I was like 25, but like I think that shit actually does matter. And I just think trading away Russell Wilson, just not fucking cool.
I mean, yeah, I don't care really about retiring or cool. It's just like, what's the plan? You traded Russell Wilson, and like, what's your plan at quarterback?
This is like one of the most special, maybe the most special player in franchise history. Like people in the city like grow up. Everybody's wearing a Russell Wilson jersey. He's like the hero to kids. I mean, yeah. I think you make sure that dude retires as a part of your franchise.
Sure, but just from a football perspective, like, what do? I mean, they're going to go with Drew Lock. I mean, Drew Lock or Geno Smith or something is going to start week 1.
They're going to be awful.
I mean, they're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. I mean, so yeah. I mean, it's just from straight football. Now, if they have some master plan to go get one of these quarterbacks,
they don't have that. They don't have
that. All right, 2 more here. Let's get to the Tampa Bay Bucks. Did not have a first round. They were traded out of the first round and then go Logan Hall. They did get this Rashad White, which I think we should talk about it maybe on the Landing Spots podcast. But yeah, what do you think out of the Bucks draft?
It's okay. It's not super exciting. I really like that they stole Shaq Mason from the Patriots before the draft, and he obviously factors in to what into their grade and their outlook, and he's a big part of this draft. Logan Hall, they moved down, picked up some extra capital, and still got Logan Hall, who they very well may have taken at 27 in that trade with the stupid Jaguars, and they still wound up getting Logan Hall at number 33. They have not re-signed Ndamukong Suh. And Logan Hall is like a stud. I actually compared him to Carlos Dunlap, at least in terms of body type, as a guy that can play inside and outside. Luke Goedeke, they need some help on. They need some restoration on their offensive line. Ali Marpet retired. They lost Alex Kappa. They acquired Shaq Mason, and now they took a shot on Luke Goedeke out of Central Michigan. Eventually, they're going to move on from Donovan Smith, their left tackle, move Tristan Wirfs to left tackle, and they'll have a competition at right tackle. Luke Goedeke could factor into that. It was a fine draft. I think they did fine. They took this running back that we're going to have to talk about a lot, Rashad White out of Arizona State, after re-signing Leonard Fournette to a pretty significant deal and also re-signing Giovanni Bernard. Keyshawn Vaughn is still there, although I think that he's probably dust. But
right,
Rashad White is a dude that a lot of people liked, and but I don't know where he's going to fit in as a rookie.
Yeah, I don't think he's a threat to Leonard Fournette, I guess is my biggest take. We can talk about it more on subsequent podcasts. But yeah, I think Rashad White is a nice player. They needed some depth at the position. But yeah, I still think Uncle Lenny is really strong. 2nd round pick in fantasy. Last one we're going to do here, Washington Commanders. Obviously I like Jahan Dotson. Shout out Penn State. But man, this was even early for Jahan Dotson. So a lot of people had going in the 2nd round. Commanders obviously did not think so. What did you think of that? Was it a reach, and anything else on the Commanders draft?
It's funny, like, Anthony Amico and Michael Leone, they tend to be pretty analytical. They do not like him. JJ Zachariason really likes him. I mean, and Penn State dudes have like had a pretty good track record here recently. And also, when I watched him play, I mean, he's a small receiver that plays big. He's going to have a chance to catch a ton of balls in Washington because there's a lot of opportunity. Obviously, Terry McLaurin's locked in, but there's a ton of opportunity there besides Terry McLaurin.
And Terry McLaurin's threatening that he wants to get paid too. I should put on the radar.
Yep. Good point. The Brian Robinson pick is frustrating out of Alabama. He's a pretty good back. And then, remember they got back J.D. McKissick.
Yeah.
Like the arrow's kind of starting to point down for Antonio Gibson. I mean,
disaster offseason for Antonio Gibson.
Yeah, I put that he was probably the biggest loser at the running back position across the league in terms of fantasy. They did get Sam Howell in the 5th round. I mean, he's a pretty talented guy. Carson Wentz should be no one's idea of a long-term solution at quarterback. So, I mean, definitely worth a shot there, Sam Howell out of North Carolina.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and Brian Robinson can play like that, like Peyton Barber role where like it's 3rd and 1 and they want to like give the ball, and maybe Brian Robinson is what they see that as. But yeah, they just keep drafting guys or re-signing guys or whatever to hurt Antonio Gibson's role. Not great. All right. We said it all on every team's NFL draft. Appreciate you all being here. Don't forget to head to establishmentrun.com/offers if you are in a legal betting state. And we'll be back next time to talk rookie landing spots from a fantasy perspective. How will these guys fare in round 1, in year 1 and beyond? For Evan. For producer Luke, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.